Of the three routes of Fate's Stay Night, the most controversial is Heaven's Feel, because it presents sexually disturbing elements. Shiro Emiya's relationship with Sakura Matou is complicated because he cannot separate his sexual desire for her from his desire to be the aid she needs to overcome her past traumas. Sakura, being the vessel for Zoken's corrupted grail, is analogous to a victim carrying the child of their abuser. Kirei Kotamine's position as a Catholic priest and his goal of allowing Angermanyu's rebirth also adds to the problematic codes within the text. In Under the Scope's video essay, The Tragic Fates of Sakura Matou, they state that if an author is going to tackle such sensitive and heavy content, they have a responsibility to do so thoughtfully. Under the Scope's conclusion seems to be that Heaven's Feel fulfills this responsibility by not utilizing Sakura's trauma as a simple plot device. Instead, Heaven's Feel engages with the reality and weight of Sakura's trauma by keeping the film's focus on her perspective. An author owes no responsibilities to their reader, and your decision to accept certain media is a different matter. Victims of sexual assault cope with it in various ways. How Sakura does so enables her to be the master of her own fate, even if it means being a little destructive. Only a fool would claim that Sakura is wholly a victim, because there are numerous instances from the first two films and the visual novel where Sakura exhibits agency. Sakura's transformation into the most powerful combatant in the Holy Grail War comes through her own will to power, despite the awful hand she's been dealt up to this point. Audiences should expect little agency from child characters, because their lack of knowledge and experience inhibits them from always making their own decisions. Under the Scope claims that Sakura was traded to the Matous like livestock, and while this wouldn't be surprising for the mages of the Fate universe, this simply isn't the case. In Fate Zero, her father, Tokiomi Tosaka, reveals that letting the Matous adopt her was for her own sake. In Fate, traditionally mages can only pass their magic crest off to one child. Having two children generally leads siblings to fight one another. The Matou family is a reputable one, and the timing is perfect since they lack a worthy heir to pass their magic to. It can be argued that Tosaka, like most mages, has a corrupted sense of morality and was not fully altruistic in giving his daughter away. He may have simply been looking out for the best interest of preserving his family name. Still, the fact that his actions would prevent his children from fighting, and the fact that he put effort in protecting his daughter Rin, with a compass which discourages her from walking straight into danger, proves that his motivations are likely mixed. Both Tosaka's pride as a mage and his caring nature as a father seem to put him in a moral gray area, just as most people. Regardless of the reason for Sakura's adoption, it seems harsh for the audience to expect a child to engage thoughtfully in such circumstances. Just as Tokiomi should not be viewed binarily, neither should the audience view victims as wholly distressed and stripped of all agency, because they still hold the power in deciding how they react to situations they are thrust into. Under the Scope is correct in the details which make Sakura a victim. Sakura has no power in deciding who raises her. She has few options for avoiding the abuses of her brother Shinji, and Zoken's crestworms literally put Sakura's fate in his own hands, since he can activate them to torture her at any moment he wishes. In general, Sakura is a victim of cruel mage culture, which does not value life in the same way as normal people. Sakura does not resent the existence of magic, comparing magecraft to the necessity of breathing in the visual novel. All mages come off as distant and calculating, to the point where some find their experiments to be necessary evils. Sakura is not exempt from such stoicism. All of this is not to assert that Sakura is wholly a victim. Rather, Sakura's victimhood decreases as she grows and experiences more. Although Sakura cannot control her membership to the Matou family, she eventually takes pride in the fact that their teachings enable her to use magecraft. Sakura finds a way to avoid Shinji's assault by staying at Shiro's house, where she is so welcome that she has her own room. Also, while Zoken technically has physical control over Sakura, he hardly exercises that control, so Sakura is only as free as she allows herself to be. In the visual novel, Sakura states that Zoken ordered her to spy on the Emiya household, but that mission carries little weight on her decision-making, since visiting Shiro is literally what she wants to do. In Presage Flower, Sakura's latent agency is alluded to when she confesses her admiration of Shiro's persistence at the high jump. Although Shiro could not clear the high jump, and despite the suicidal way he practices magecraft, Sakura admires that Shiro stays true to his goals. Unfortunately, this admiration hinders her from acknowledging her own resiliency. Even in the final moments of Lost Butterfly, we see that Sakura is stronger than she lets on. Sakura fights against Shinji's assault, and if it came down to it, if she were to use magic, she'd be more effective than him. In the visual novel, Sakura admits that she only puts up with Shinji because she pities him. Then when she kills him, she feels nothing. And quite frankly, Shinji never deserved her pity, or anyone else's for that matter. Despite the culture and family Sakura is raised into, she shows resiliency in accepting her circumstances and making decisions whenever she can. A common trope in fiction is that once a good character is brainwashed into a villain, their thoughts and actions are unrecognizable to their former allies. However, when it comes to the Grail's corruption, the alteration it has on a person may not be significant. An effect of the corrupted Grail is that it alters a person's alignment to evil. For those who are already evil aligned, their change is not so significant. For Sakura, it seems that the corrupted Grail brings her anxious, jealous, and resenting thoughts and tendencies to the forefront. Regardless of the Grail's influence on her thoughts, she is still in control of how she acts on those thoughts. For example, when Sakura is instructing Ryder to rescue Shiro if he runs into danger at the Ainsburn Castle, she grins, asserting that while Kirei is a threat, he's definitely not a threat to her. Ryder is shocked by this expression, which would make an uninformed viewer assume the shadow is controlling Sakura, but Ryder's reaction is more likely because Sakura is typically not blunt. She's passive. Aside from this, Sakura is not wrong about the threat level of Kirei. She could easily summon Ryder if she were attacked, and Ryder is way stronger than him. Kirei is at least on par with True Assassin. He got mollywopped by Ryder in Presage Flower. Another example is when Sakura thinks to herself that the best way to keep Shiro safe is to never let him leave the house, which is a fair assessment. By the end of that night, Ryder and Assassin are the only official servants left in the war, and thanks to the Shadow, Sakura also controls Saber and Berserker. But I'm digressing. The importance of this example is that Sakura doesn't deny the thoughts she has. Rather, she just feels ashamed of them. This is similar to when someone thinks about causing harm to another, only to toss the idea aside because it's immoral, or simply not worth the trouble. Although the Grail has some influence on Sakura's thoughts, she still exhibits control over her actions. To be precise, we shouldn't think of the Shadow as a separate entity from Sakura. Rather, it acts as a lethal extension of her resentment towards the world. Dark Sakura is without a doubt another aspect of the true Sakura, just brought to the forefront. She kills Shinji because she wants to, she devours the citizens of Fuyuki because their lives don't matter, and it feels good. And she lashes out at Rin, because she resents the Tosaka family for abandoning her. Also, she's salty that Shiro gives Rin attention. Even if the Shadow were to influence Sakura to threaten Shiro, we know she would never act on it. Her final command to Ryder is to protect Shiro no matter the circumstances. Hopefully, the final days of the Grail War, which will make up Spring Song, will make things clear that Sakura is totally conscious of her actions. In the final days of the Grail War, Kirei fights and manages to defeat True Assassin. Afterward, Kirei and Sakura have a confrontation in which he calls her bluff. Although she has become drunk on power because of the Grail, her facade of a dark alter ego is just an excuse she uses to lash out at others. Sakura cannot deny this, and so she attempts to crush Kirei with her tendrils, likely aware that doing so will only prove his point. Lashing out at others is simply poor behavior management, not a sign of one's lack of agency. By the end of Lost Butterfly, Sakura and Zoken are the only masters remaining, and Sakura can kill Zoken at any moment. Zoken even acknowledges he cannot control her. Sakura seemingly has endless mana and can control the strongest servants in the Grail War. With Sakura as the most powerful combatant left remaining, no one should be expecting Shiro to come to her rescue. The mission of Spring Song isn't to save Sakura, because she is beyond that necessity. Instead, audiences should look forward to Sakura accepting the horror she's faced and caused, as well as accept the help of those who love her unconditionally. TLDR, my waifu ain't a victim. She may look soft and sweet, but she will fuck you up. All Sakura wants is for someone to give her head pats and tell her
everything will be okay.
And if she says no to head pats, it's actually a cry for help and it means yes.